Bonjour et bienvenue au podcast S.O.S Business. Aujourd'hui, j'aborde un sujet qui touche la plupart des entreprises, bâtir son équipe de vente. C'est pas une tâche facile, and today it's going to be an English podcast because I have someone from Toronto that I appreciate a lot and that he has a revolutionary approach to building a sales team. So I want to discuss that with him. Knowing that it takes 6 to 9 months before somebody in sales to reach their full capacity, and knowing that there's a turnover average of 25% in that area, I think it's important to start building your team the right way. So I'm glad to have Darren Legault. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you, Sonia. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
You speak French too, so sometimes we'll do a little French if you're okay with that.
Oui, pas de problème.
That's good. So I see on your shirt Sales Accelerator. Do you want to talk to us about what you're doing?
Absolutely. I'm a fractional sales leader with Sales Acceleration. I help business owners and CEOs, founders who are struggling with stagnant or decline in sales. And I work with them to diagnose the issues that are getting in the way and preventing them from getting to the next level. And I put in very specific processes and put in a very solid sales infrastructure. And then I could also lead their sales team because a lot of owners don't have the time to devote to that. So I can also lead their sales team, hold them accountable, do one-on-one coaching, and I could also help recruit new salespeople. So I did this for 25 years in the corporate world, and now I ventured out on my own. I've been doing this for a couple of years, and I really, really enjoy it.
I learned many things from you. Darren and I, we know each other and we work together on some mandate, but you taught me something interesting about two types of salesperson and how you define which one you need. So can you talk to us about it?
Sure. And really, before you get into that, you really need to take a look at what your overall sales objectives are going to be. A lot of businesses they don't um, they don't go over that with their financial folks or their operations. So you really have to figure out where this revenue is going to be coming from. Is it going to be coming from your existing customer base, or do you want this to be completely new customer acquisition? And based on that, you can hire or recruit sales reps based on your needs. So if you're looking at your financial objectives and the vast majority of that is coming from new business development, then you need somebody who's very, very comfortable in acquiring new business, and we typically call those hunters. Someone who has got a very good skill set in identifying new markets, prospecting for new business, making phone calls. It could be physically knocking on doors, sending a lot of emails, and somebody who is who is not afraid of rejection. Somebody who can take a lot of no's over the course of the day. So if you're looking for new business acquisition, then you would need a hunter. If you're looking at a lot of business coming from your existing accounts and client base, then you would probably need somebody with a different skill set, and that would be somebody like a farmer, an account executive who is really good at developing and maintaining relationships and is an expert in identifying opportunities within those clients and can cross sell and upsell. And both those roles have different types of skill sets. So you really have to identify, the type of salesperson that you're looking for, and then once you've done that, then you can narrow that down and when you're doing the recruiting and interviewing and assessments, then you can break it down into those specific skill sets that they need.
Staying on the human, because this is what we're talking about, a person who could be either a hunter or a farmer. I find that really refreshing. Never heard that before. So you've seen many companies. Have you seen people that were not in the right seat just with those two? And we'll discuss more other, skill set they need, but just because of those two type that were really not at the right place?
Yeah, it happens often when I do sales team assessments. When I'm brought in to assess an existing sales team, it's quite surprising how often sales reps are not in the right seats. You'll have a hunter who's in a farmer role or vice versa. And there's a lot of different reasons behind that. A lot of businesses think that I'll just hire a sales rep, and it doesn't matter what kind of skill sets they have. I'll try to find the best one, and then put them in the role. And then sometimes the role will change over time. Sometimes maybe a person was hired as an account executive and responsible for existing customers and upselling. But for whatever reason, the business starts to navigate into other markets, and they decide to go after new business. And then they ask that account executive who doesn't have hunting skills to go out and find new business, and they may not be a very good fit. So I see that quite often when I'm doing my sales team assessments. People are in the wrong spots.
Do you see also people that they understand sales, they love sales, but at the end of the day, they just don't get it? They cannot
Yes,
do it?
yeah, yes, and that happens quite often as well, and that comes down to very often, their coachability. Sometimes sales reps they love what they're doing, but they think they know it all, and you can't teach them anything. Or like I mentioned before, they're in the wrong spot. So a rep could really enjoy what they do, but if you ask them to go knock on doors, they just can't do it. It's not part of their skill set, and they're not comfortable with it. So, a lot of it comes down to recruiting and during the interviewing process, using those assessments that you have, Sonia, and making sure that when you do finally find somebody, that it's a right fit and a right culture fit, and making sure that you're setting up the new hire for success. So you want to make sure that you've got a well structured onboarding program so that your new hire is set up and they can hit the ground running and learn as much as you can, and obviously providing the ongoing coaching and support. That's a very big miss for a lot of businesses.
And you just discussed about something important. Um, I often talk about the cognitive part of the mind, which is your instinct to act. Um, will tell us about the natural talent of a person and their four instinctive strengths. And I have an example about a salesperson. I had a director of sale job opening in my business, and I met Richard. So Richard, he did love sales. He was definitely a hunter, knowing what I know today. He was he knew all about sales. But when I discovered his cognitive index, I've seen that, oh my God, this person is adapting in each instincts. There's four of them, and he's adapting in
Mm.
each. So I've been meeting with Richard, and the first question I asked him was, are you always tired? Have you been always tired all your life? And Richard say, oh my God, you're a witch. And then I laugh. I said, no, no. And he told me that 15 years ago, he had a diagnosis of chronic fatigue. So
Okay.
His natural talent was system analyst. We're really far away from sales. And
Mhm.
after teaching him, sorry, everything about his three parts of the mind and all of that, um, a year later, I decided to call him and say, "Hey, Richard, how are you doing?" So he was not tired anymore. He changed job and he had hobbies which he never had. So it's important when we have a salesperson to make sure that they're aligned in their three parts of the mind. So they will be very productive and the turnover will reduce in your company as well.
Absolutely. The the sales role is very, very challenging, and you may like selling in front of people, but selling encompasses a lot more than just presenting a solution or a service. Um, Sales involves prospecting. Sales involves knowing your product and service, follow up. You want to make sure that your paperwork is organized, your calendar is organized. You have to be comfortable with rejection. And when you combine all the different challenges, and not just that, but also performance, you're measured on performance on a daily basis, and your compensation is directly tied to your performance. So that could put a lot of pressure on the individual. So it's one thing to say that I love sales, but if you're not comfortable with your compensation and how you're measured and with regards to your performance, I can see that taking a toll on somebody, emotionally, physically, mentally. Absolutely.
And if we take a step back, before we hire our first member, because sometimes, oh, I need somebody in sale, we just go and we put a job offer there and we have people coming in. What are the key things we need to put in place to make sure that it will go smoothly and will reduce the turnaround, in the employees?
Yeah. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. A lot of businesses, they just put a posting up, hoping that they find a top notch candidate. And there's a lot of factors that you have to think about before you put that job posting up. You really have to have a recruiting strategy and a recruiting process. So the first thing that I work with my clients is I want to make sure that the entire business is on board, that everyone understands that if we bring in new accounts, we can service these new accounts. That's extremely important. And then, like I mentioned earlier, what percentage of the new business is going to come from new business or from existing business? That will help you determine what type of sales role you're going to be going after. You want to make sure that your compensation plans are competitive, and not only are they competitive, but they're incentivizing the right behaviors for your sales team. You certainly don't want to have a compensation plan that incentivizes sales from existing business when you're going after new business, for example. So that is extremely important. You want to make sure that you have your job descriptions in place and they're very, very clear. You want to make sure that you have like I mentioned before, a well structured onboarding program. Um, the mistake a lot of businesses make is they will hire somebody and then spend 3-4 days in the office teaching product and pricing and that sort of thing, and then they say, okay, go out and sell. That's not setting somebody up for success. You want to make sure that you have a really well structured onboarding program that lasts a long time and provide them ongoing coaching and support. So there's a lot of factors to think of before you put that posting up, and then when you have that interviewing process, when you start interviewing people, you have to determine how long that process is going to last. Some companies will make the mistake of having one interview and then the second interview is 2 weeks later. You really have to streamline it because if you spend too much time, you may lose top quality candidates. You want to make sure that you understand who's involved in the hiring process and the interviewing. So, is it going to be the sales manager and the company owner? Are you going to have somebody in operations involved, somebody from HR? So, you want to make sure that uh, the interviewing process is streamlined and everybody knows exactly their role within the process. So it's there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of strategy that goes into it. Um, just putting a posting up online somewhere will not give you any good results at all.
And as a salesperson, it's important for them, like if the environment is very important for you, you won't go work for a petroleum company. So it's important that
Sure.
making sure that your mission as a business is aligned with their values and they want to contribute to that mission. I think it's important
Mhm.
to take that into consideration as well. And unfortunately, there's not it's not only about the money, there's many other things. And what about the freedom? Because at one point, your sales rep, you need to give them the power as well to deliver the expected results. So
Mhm.
can we rapidly, like a minute, just I would like to hear what you have to say about what is the power you give them, what you should give them to make sure that they will really achieve their goals.
I think it all comes down to building that trust with your sales team and their individual performance, right? So sales reps are drawn to that flexibility for sure. That's one of the main reasons why they do it. Um, but I've always had the approach of if you're coachable and if you're someone who is willing to put in the effort, you're coachable and you're producing the results, then you're going to get a lot of flexibility from myself, and you should get a lot of flexibility from your sales leader. Part of being a salesperson is being able to go out on your own and prospect and meet customers on your own, and you should be able to do that. But if you're not coachable and you're not bringing in the expected results, then you're probably going to be under more of a watchful eye, and that can present some problems for sure with the business. But you want to make sure that the people that you bring on, like I mentioned before, they're coachable, they're curious. That's probably a rep superpower is just being very very curious and asking open-ended questions when you're meeting customers. That's probably if I look at the sales reps that I've coached over the course of my career, the ones who performed the best were the ones who were just naturally curious and they asked open-ended questions.
Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, um, it's important also to listen to them because sometimes, when there's a new person coming in the team and they're going out, they see things we don't see because we're in the business for so long. So
Hmm.
listen to what the new people that come in, they might give you some tips or some
Sure.
information about the customers or the potential clients that you wouldn't know. I think it's also important.
Oh, absolutely. Customer feedback is essential because we make the mistake of maybe taking our customers for granted sometimes, and the only times they hear from us is when they see an invoice. So having that customer interaction is really really important. And when you bring somebody new into the organization, that could be a great opportunity for somebody to go out and meet your clients, and then they can get some really important feedback, and you can get some information on how you can improve. A lot of that is based on that communication.
So, what are the key points the entrepreneurs that listen to our podcast today are going with today? What are the 5 key things they must remember?
So the important thing is to have a um, very well documented recruiting strategy and interview process. There are many factors that you need to consider. It's not good enough just to put a posting up because you're not going to get results. You really have to put in those processes and strategies. And then once you start meeting with candidates, you need to ask them very specific questions on their experiences. Um, some very good questions to ask is, you give them a situation, a task, an action, and a result. We call that the STAR method. Those are some really good questions to ask. And probably my favorite question from a sales perspective is I've always asked, if you don't get any leads from the business, how are you going to make sales? How are you going to succeed in this role? And if they have some really good experience, they'll be able to provide those specifics. And then once they are, on board and ready to go, I mentioned this before, but the onboarding is so important. You can't just provide a couple of days of training and then let them go out and try to sell. You need to set them up for success, and that that is a well structured onboarding program. And the onboarding doesn't end after 30 days or 90 days. These folks need consistent coaching, consistent support. If you, the sales manager or the owner, don't have time, um, you really have to figure out how to provide that coaching because your sales team, your employees, they're your most important resource. So you need to invest the time into them and make sure they understand the expectations when they start. That's another very very important part. Make sure the expectations are very very clear. That everyone has agreed to those expectations, so they know exactly what they need to do on a daily, weekly basis. They need to know how they're going to be compensated and measured, and if you do all of those things and have a really good strategy, then you should be able to find some really top notch quality candidates out there and have them thrive in your business.
Thank you so much, Darren, for your participation in my podcast today.
Thank you, Sonia. Merci beaucoup. C'était vraiment un plaisir.
Merci à tous. Thank you everyone for listening to my podcast. Et je vous invite dans 2 semaines à découvrir un autre sujet, un autre enjeu qui est présent dans toutes les entreprises ou presque. Alors, en attendant, bonne journée.